Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the OnePlus 12 and see how this particular phone holds up in 2025. Now, the first thing I will tell you is that the OnePlus 12 did come out about a year and a half, 2 years ago, depending on how you kind of take a look at it. And the thing about the OnePlus 12, what I will tell you, is that these types of phones, for the most part, are still very interesting. When this phone first came out, I'm already stuttering getting even started into this video, because when this phone first came out, it was already such an interesting device in my experience. This was a phone that I was very excited to use. It killed it on the spec sheet, but in real day-to-day use, I had a really weird time with it, and I vividly remember this phone because it was one of the weirdest phones I had purchased. It was last year, within the last year when I went ahead and used it. Now, before we get started, if you do want to go ahead and pick up a phone like this type of device, maybe not this one, but some other ones I would recommend buying instead, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of this particular phone. This phone originally came out in December of 2023, which means you could call it 2023, you could call it 2024. It's most likely a 2024 type of device. And this phone on the front side, right, is basically giving you a 6.82-inch LTPO AMOLED display. That is a really good type of panel to have. It's massive, it's an LTPO display, and it's 120 Hz. Already on paper, that type of capability stands out like crazy. Having that type of capability already is very cool, and that would already kind of make your device feel that much more premium and that much better. So the display itself was very nice. There was very little bezel around it, and you were still getting a pretty good looking device when it comes down to it, all throughout. So again, there's not that much to complain about here, but that side from that phone, it actually was like a really good type of device, and I actually did enjoy it, if I'm being honest. But that wasn't the problem I had with this phone, right? I had a different type of issue with this device. When you kind of take a look at it again, you're basically getting standard type of, build quality, what you'd expect for like a flagship. By the way, this was not a cheap phone. This was like pretty much what you'd expect paying for like a phone like this. USB-C port on the bottom. Along the sides, again, nothing else super crazy. It did kind of have this like curved display though, which I actually liked a lot, right? I love having these curved displays, and those definitely, again, help out kind of using these types of phones, because I honestly feel like it just feels a little bit better when you're using it. On the backside, you're getting a frosted glass back, which again is great, and you're getting this like quadruple camera setup on the backside. Now, I will tell you, if you're going to go through and pick up a device, it is very nice to be able to go through and buy these types of devices that are going to, again, stand the test of time from a build quality perspective. And from a build quality perspective, this phone holds up very well. You're getting things like wireless charging inside of this phone. You're getting reverse wireless charging inside of this device. And from that perspective alone, this type of device does do a good job at kind of holding up from that perspective. So I genuinely do think, again, getting a device like this, it does look really nice and it does look very, very good. But my problem wasn't necessarily how it looked. I even felt like from a price tag standpoint, whatever this phone was when it retailed was kind of overpriced. And even now it's still like $600 something on Amazon, which I don't even think it's worth that much, to be honest. But those are kind of some of those main things to kind of keep in mind there from that particular perspective. So at least when you take a look at it on the exterior, that right there is one of those small minor things to kind of keep in mind there. Again, nothing super crazy, but it is just one of those things to keep in mind. Now, one other thing to keep in mind here too is that if you're kind of taking a look at this phone from a price tag perspective, you have to remember this is, a camera that you're buying that you're going to have to spend quite a bit of money on. It's a quadruple camera setup on the backside. So you're essentially going to be getting a 50 megapixel wide angle camera, a 64 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, and then a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. Did I say it was a quadruple camera setup? I did not mean to say it was quadruple. It was a triple camera setup. It did have that LiDAR sensor though, which made it appear like it was quadruple. Now, you're getting a 32 megapixel camera on the front. The reason why this camera was weird was because you were getting 8K capability on the backside, but you were only getting 4K at 30 on the front side. That is just something that just ends up happening with, some phone manufacturers, and with OnePlus, that's just another example of something really weird that they just decided to do, right? When these phone manufacturers decide to kind of give us like 8K on the back, and then they give us like 4K at 30 on the front, that's somewhat of an issue because you're paying flagship money for like a subpar almost like mid-tier front camera. Even the back camera really wasn't that great. And that's kind of one of the problems I have with OnePlus phones, is that they just don't have like any like super insane feature that is, that's kind of like worth bragging about. Back in the day, it was the design. Then it was the price tag for some OnePlus phones, and then it goes to the software. Now, there's just not anything, I don't even know what we're at. Are we at the OnePlus 13 or 14, right? And I like OnePlus as a company. I've used to worship their phones, but I definitely do think with this phone, it left a really bad taste in my mouth, especially when it came down to the battery life, but we'll get into that in a second. Software-wise, this phone is still supported with software, which is always really nice. It's, I love getting software updates, and you're going to be getting that here. So this phone is still going to be getting some software updates. It's not going to be lasting forever, but it still is here for the most part. So that is kind of a nice thing kind of going on here. But the battery life was the main issue. This battery size was about a 5,400 milliampere battery, which was nice to have. And I love having that, it was really nice. But the issue with it was that when I was running my test, this phone was not performing as well compared to a lot of other devices that I was using. It was, underperforming compared to my iPhones and my Samsungs. And that was something that was really weird, because this phone had a massive size battery, but I guess it was having to power this massive display. And I heard some conflicting things because some people had some good experience with this battery life. I personally had a terrible experience with this phone's battery. Maybe it's gotten better and more optimized, but I was very, very unhappy with, the experience I had at that time. And that was just one of those things that ended up happening there. But luckily, this phone is still giving you a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset inside with a ton of RAM. I mean, you're getting 12 gigs RAM all the way up to 16 to 24 gigabytes of RAM inside of a device. So that right there is also just an insanely, extremely crazy thing to have. That much RAM inside of a device is almost unneeded. And you're going to be getting that here inside of this device, which, like I mentioned, is a very nice thing to have. Do you need that much RAM? Probably not. But you are going to be getting that type of experience here for the most part, which again is going to be nice. So the performance is going to be really nice. The capability is going to be really nice as well. So you're definitely going to be getting a very good type of experience inside of this type of device, which is something that I genuinely do like from a performance perspective, which is something that I really like. So all in all, when I take a look at the OnePlus 12, I pretty much think that in almost every single way, a phone like this really doesn't make that much sense. Right. It excels in the build quality. I feel like it's a really good build quality phone. And the chipset is also very, very good. So that is something that's really nice here. But when you take a step further and you look at this phone compared to even a Galaxy S23, which came out a year before this, it doesn't make that much sense to get this type of phone because those other devices give you a much better experience. This phone is really not well-rounded. You're not getting a great camera. You're not getting great battery life. And the software is it's going to get another 2 years. If you get something like a Galaxy S23, it's going to be giving you a much better experience. And that phone came out in 2023. So those are the types of phones I'd recommend buying, even a Google Pixel 8. A OnePlus 12, I probably would not recommend buying anymore, in my personal opinion. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.